Hi, in this video I'll show you how to make a flat 3D bicolor resin nail art. This design is very comfortable to wear since it's very thin. Nail art, you'll need a pink acrylic resin that you need to mix with white acrylic resin to obtain a light pink. Then you will need a 3D resin brush. It should be sharp, flat and big enough. And you will need a small one like the Rubloff AK39R number 4. I used the big brush to make the external petals. I dipped my brush in the white resin and a bit in the pink resin to obtain a bicolor drop. Then I flattened this drop of resin to form a petal. Your petal should look like a chip. Notice that I'm not using the tip of the brush. You should always use its body to flatten it. If you use the tip of your brush, you'll dig the resin. You'll obtain something hollow and it won't be straight. So I flattened the resin with the body of my brush to form the petal. I've added a bit of pink resin so that later I can flatten it. It's very liquid. Since I've used monomer, you don't have to do it. I only wanted it to be more pink. I do exactly the same thing with the second petal. I apply a drop of resin that I flatten with the body of my brush, spread it as thinly as possible, because we'll have to apply several layers of resin. The first layers of resin needs to be very thin, or else it will become very thick, and surely it will be very uncomfortable to wear. So I add some more layers with small drops this time. I flatten each layer thinly and I repeat the technique. The circle is small and thin. You might have noticed that it is different from the usual 3D resin I've made. I used to call this technique the potato chips technique because I used to head up several layers of this circular resin. And before applying another layer of resin, let it dry. That way you won't damage them. Here I've added some more pink to my resin since it was a bit pallid. You can choose any color you like. Here I've applied more pink than white. You can also use only pink or white. It's up to you really. Here the aim is not to make only white or pink, because if you use the same color every time, the result won't work and won't look great at all. Here it is, the second row of petal is done. Now, I will use the small brush. You don't have to, it works also with the big one. The only thing is that it makes it easier since the brush tip is smaller. Once again, I use the same technique. Notice that the petals from the third row are smaller. If you obtain a small hollow, you can always apply